In the heart of Washington, where power hums beneath marble facades and secrets fester in locked drawers, a single email shattered the illusion of bureaucratic calm. It wasn't the kind of message that arrived with fanfare or subtlety. It was a digital grenade lobbed from the desk of Erica Carr, acting executive secretary of USAID. The subject line was innocuous, almost forgettable. Document retention update. But the contents? They were dynamite. Shred as many documents as you can, the email read, its words stark against the glowing screen of a trembling staffer's monitor. If the shredder breaks, use burn bags. Label them secret with a dark Sharpie. Get it done tonight. Signed with the crisp efficiency of someone accustomed to being obeyed, Erica Y. Carr's name sat at the bottom like a guillotine's blade. By dawn, whispers of the email had spread beyond USAID's sterile corridors, slithering into the ears of those who thrived on Washington's underbelly. The rumor mill churned, and one name surfaced repeatedly: Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. AOC, the firebrand Congresswoman, had recently taken to podiums and airwaves, defending Carr as a paragon of transparency. Why, people wondered, was she so invested in shielding a bureaucrat whose midnight orders reeked of panic? Inside USAID, a young archivist named James Callahan felt the weight of that email like a stone in his chest. He wasn't a hero, not by any stretch, just a man who'd spent years cataloging files, believing in the quiet dignity of public service. But when he cracked open a safe labeled "confidential" and saw the directive glowing on his screen, something shifted. Desperation, not courage, drove him. His fingers shook as he copied the email, knowing that by morning, every trace of it could vanish into ash. Under the fluorescent hum of a 24-hour convenience store, an outdated fax machine whirred to life, spitting out Callahan's anonymous gift to the world. Across town, in a Department of Justice war room cluttered with budget reports and reform plans, Elon Musk, the billionaire-turned-governmental disruptor, jerked awake at the sound. A fax? In this era of encrypted apps and cloud drives? He peeled the page from the machine, his curiosity souring into grim focus as he read. "You've got to see this," he murmured, beckoning his team closer. The words weren't bureaucratic jargon. They were raw, panicked, and unmistakably criminal. Musk's team gathered under harsh lights, their faces tightening with every line. Caroline Levitt, a rising star in the DOJ known for her surgical precision, stepped through the door as if summoned by fate. One glance at the email, and her eyes glittered like polished steel. "If this is real," she said softly, "the whole system's about to crack." A half-smile curved her lips. Not humor, but the grim satisfaction of someone who'd long suspected the rot ran deep. "I'll get Congress on the line. We need a hearing. Now." And so the battle lines were drawn. A midnight directive had ignited a firestorm, and Erica Carr would soon learn the cost of her gamble. But the whispers about AOC's role raised a sharper question. What was she protecting, and why? By the time Caroline Levitt stepped into a crowded White House briefing room, the story had already metastasized. Reporters buzzed with caffeine and cynicism, their laptops open like vultures' wings. The air crackled with anticipation, every camera trained on the woman holding a single sheet of paper. No teleprompter, no aides whispering cues, just Levitt, her voice calm but piercing. "This," she said, raising the page, "is not a memo about clearing out the office fridge." A ripple of laughter broke the tension, quickly stifled. This is a directive from USAID's Acting Executive Secretary, Erica Carr, ordering staff to destroy classified material, label it secret, and burn the rest. She paused, letting the words sink in. Midnight bonfires at the Reagan Building, ladies and gentlemen. Cameras flashed. Gasps punctuated the silence. Levitt tapped the paper, her voice dropping to a courtroom cadence. Let me read her words directly. Shred as many documents as you can first. If the shredder breaks, use burn bags. Now, unless USAID is hosting an arts and crafts fair with federal secrets, we have a serious problem. Washington erupted. Fox News, ever eager for red meat, splashed headlines in bold crimson. Secretary Scandal, USAID caught in cover-up. Sean Hannity, practically vibrating with glee, framed Carr as a villain straight from a spy novel. MSNBC, meanwhile, deployed their analysts, professional apologists, some might say, to dismiss the email as a right-wing fabrication. Burning documents at midnight. Just a quirky team-building exercise, they insisted, complete with marshmallows and goodwill. And then came AOC, live on CNN. Her voice trembled with practiced indignation, as if she'd just discovered her oat milk latte was made with dairy. What we're witnessing, she declared, is a coordinated assault. The DOJ has been muskified, weaponized, and radicalized against the vulnerable. Vulnerable, she said, as if bureaucrats torching secrets were the true victims. This isn't about documents, she continued, eyes blazing. It's about dismantling programs that feed children, fund health care, house the poor. Levitt didn't bother with a cable news rebuttal. She worked the halls of Congress instead, building bipartisan pressure with the precision of a chess grandmaster. When a reporter asked why she hadn't clapped back at AOC, she quipped, "When someone's setting their own credibility on fire, it's rude to interrupt." But the Democrats weren't laughing. All 213 House Democrats voted to block a hearing, clutching democracy like a shield while dodging transparency like a plague. It didn't matter. The vote carried, and a hearing was set. The Rayburn Building loomed over Capitol Hill, its halls unnaturally quiet, as if holding their breath. Inside the committee room, tension coiled like a spring. Staffers whispered nervously, reporters hunched over laptops, and cameras jockeyed for angles, live streaming to a nation craving justice or chaos. Erica Carr entered first, flanked by her attorney, her blazer sharp enough to cut glass. Her expression screamed defiance, as if she believed she could out-talk the storm. The chairman, a Maryland Democrat with a voice like gravel, banged his gavel. "This hearing is now in session," he droned, barely glancing up. "We're here to review allegations concerning the destruction of federal records. Witnesses are under oath." He added, almost as an afterthought, "This is not a trial." The room's atmosphere begged to differ. "Ms. Carr," the chairman said, "you may proceed." Erica leaned forward, her voice smooth as silk. "We were conducting routine disposal of outdated documents," she began. "All of it followed retention protocols. Nothing more, nothing less." Caroline Levitt didn't wait a beat. She flipped open a leather folder, her voice slicing through the room. "Ms. Carr, would you explain why your staff were told to mark burn bags secret USAID with a Sharpie? Is that standard protocol, or is it exclusive to midnight shredding parties?" A murmur rolled through the room. Erica's lips parted, but her confidence wavered. "It was to distinguish burn bags from ordinary trash," she said, her voice thinning. We didn't want confusion. Confusion? Levitt's eyebrow arched. I've worked with federal records. If you're worried about mix-ups, there are labeled bins, colored folders, or wild idea, training your staff. Laughter broke out, sharp and unscripted, from the Republican side. Even a few Democrats cracked smiles. Then AOC sprang to her feet, her eyes blazing like a revolutionary in a Renaissance painting. "This is a circus," she declared, pointing at Levitt. "You're twisting words to score points while we're fighting for programs that feed children, fund health care, house the poor. This is a smear against a woman of color in leadership." The Democratic bench clapped weakly, more duty than conviction. Levitt didn't flinch. "It's refreshing to hear you admit those bags held something valuable," she said, her tone icy. "If these programs are so vital, why did Ms. Carr order their records destroyed under cover of darkness? What exactly were they, Congresswoman, and who benefited?" For a moment, the room seemed to hold its breath. AOC's jaw tightened. Erica stared at the carpet, suddenly fascinated by its weave. A reporter in the back whispered, "She's not done." Levitt turned a page in her folder, almost casually, as if bored. But the gesture carried weight. Everyone knew she was just warming up. AOC, sensing her narrative slipping, rushed the podium with theatrical flair. Behind her, a projector hummed, casting a blue glow across the room. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, as if unveiling a documentary, "watch this carefully. You'll see what's at stake." Grainy footage rolled, families in tears, describing lost aid after DOJ budget cuts. AOC stood to one side, her expression pained, as if she'd personally borne their suffering. "This isn't bureaucracy," she said, pacing like a preacher. "This is privilege deciding who eats, who lives. If you think this is about burn bags, you've missed the point." Erica seized the opening. "Exactly," she said, her voice teetering between defiance and panic. "That email was taken out of context. A physical cleanup, routine housekeeping, nothing more." Levitt didn't interrupt. She watched, her face unreadable. Then, slowly, she raised the email, its words damning in black and white. "Routine housekeeping, Miss Carr?" she asked, her voice velvet over steel. "Let me refresh your memory. Shred as many documents as you can first. If the shredder breaks, use burn bags. Forgive me, but I've yet to see a janitorial guide that calls for fire as a backup plan." The room exploded, reporters scribbling, cameras whirring, murmurs swelling. Erica froze, her face a mask of horror. AOC stormed forward, pointing at Levitt. "This is a takedown, a privileged mouthpiece, turning one email into a witch hunt to silence women who don't fit her mold." Levitt didn't blink. "Congresswoman," she said, turning to the committee, "this isn't about documents. It's about accountability. A federal official ordered the destruction of public records marked secret and hid behind identity politics like it's a shield. I've read this email a dozen times. It's not ambiguous. It's an instruction to destroy government property. If that's housekeeping, the National Archives needs a new dictionary." A chuckle rippled through the Republicans. AOC faltered, just for a second, but the cameras caught it. Erica, now visibly sweating, glanced at her lawyer, who looked as lost as she did. Levitt pressed a remote, and the projector shifted to a labyrinth of financial lines. "Let's talk specifics," she said, her voice clear as a bell. "USAID labeled these funds cultural enrichment and community building. Noble, right?" Her sarcasm was surgical. But here's where your tax dollars went. The screen listed groups: Voices for Equality, Community Action Now, Truth Seekers United, each tied to radical activism, riots, and anti-government protests. One group, Levitt said, spent taxpayer money training digital activists, social media influencers pushing narratives timed to political decisions. How, Ms. Carr, is that housekeeping? Erica recoiled. AOC, shaken, tried to rally. Independent journalism needs funding to speak truth to power, Levitt cut in. Not at the taxpayer's expense, Congresswoman, and not when it's propaganda dressed as reporting. You don't get to buy public opinion with public money. A stir at the door drew every eye. Security ushered in a slender man, his eyes weary but resolute. "My name is James Callahan," he said, taking the stand. "I worked in USAID's archives. I was told to destroy records of financial transfers before an audit." Erica lunged forward. "That's false! I'd never—" Callahan raised a recorder and pressed play. Carr's voice filled the room, frantic and unmistakable. "Shred! Burn! I don't care! Just do it before the auditors arrive!" Chaos erupted. Reporters scrambled, AOC froze, and Erica's face crumpled. AOC tried one last gasp. "This could be fabricated." Laughter, spontaneous, cutting, answered her. Even Democrats smirked. Levitt stepped forward. "Fabricated, Congresswoman? If this is all a lie, why did Ms. Carr destroy documents at midnight?" She turned to the chairman. "It's time to ask who we're protecting." As the hearing collapsed into chaos, Erica Carr was escorted out, her lawyer shouting about cooperation to deaf ears. AOC, usually a camera magnet, bolted for a side exit, dodging questions with the agility of a fugitive. The media spun wildly. MSNBC's "Questions Remain" headlines clashed with Fox's "Scandal Rocks USAID." Social media was merciless. Number burned the truth, trending as a bitter jab at the cover-up. Later, in the DOJ's austere offices, Levitt sat with Musk and U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi. Bondi flipped through transcripts, her expression grim. "This reads like a bad screenplay," she said dryly. "Midnight shredding, secret recordings, activist funding. Reality's outdone fiction." "It's not just corruption," Levitt said. "It's an ecosystem. Taxpayer money funneled to propaganda, masked as virtue." Musk, silent until now, leaned forward. "Carr's a symptom, not the disease. The system's infected. Time for antibiotics." Bondi signed a document, launching a criminal probe into Carr and her network. The clock was ticking. At the National Press Club, under a banner reading, "Truth Doesn't Burn," Levitt faced a sea of reporters, activists, and citizens. She didn't gloat. She didn't need to. "Governments don't fall from criticism," she said, her voice steady. "They fall when truth is turned to ash." Erica Carr faced 4 federal charges: obstruction, destruction of property, conspiracy, and misuse of funds. In custody, her arrogance was gone, replaced by stunned defeat. AOC, her image in tatters, announced she wouldn't seek re-election. Her FBI probe, a shadow she couldn't outrun. Levitt became more than a prosecutor. She became a symbol. As Darn Truth Doesn't Burn surged online, the nation saw through the smoke. In Washington's echo chambers, would-be schemers took note. The truth, once lit, burns brighter than any cover-up.